sort of see the chat here. Alright. That's just gonna have to work. So today I have kind of an interesting lineup. It's stuff that I'm interested in talking about. I was looking forward to talk more about Israel and Palestine, but it's really depressing, and man, there are so many good takes out there already, and it's just so unequivocal that there needs to be more pressure put on Israel and things like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about it tomorrow, but today I want to talk about LGBTQ issues, especially in Japan. And there was some news recently about basically the Japanese government being very ignorant and making some really dumb statements. So, unfortunately, that's what we kind of have to live with. But just to show you a little bit, basically, okay, the story is, way back in 2013, there was this whole push to have LGBT people, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, for anyone who's been living under a rock. So this push in Japan was to include kind of some basic things. The first one was to have more education about LGBT people in schools. There's a national curriculum, so the schools all teach the same things, and some of them taught that heterosexuality is normal, so they wanted that to be revised. The other thing is to allow there to be gay marriage, basically, or some kind of domestic union that would be the same thing as having those rights. And then also there was more things that they wanted to do in terms of discrimination. Unfortunately, in Japan, they have some pretty old ways of dealing with things. In case you are unaware of the trans discourse and things like that, there used to be something called gender identity disorder that they would diagnose, and that's still something that happens in Japan, even though the standards for diagnosis have been, there's something called the DSS, that has been updated. I think it's been updated in 2013, and it was updated in 2018 again. So that's not really something that is done anymore, except for Japan just is very slow and bureaucratic and kind of doesn't keep up with that stuff. So that was something that they were trying to get changed back in 2013. So basically, this has been coming back and coming back, 2015, 2017, trying to get the Japanese government to be a little bit proactive about LGBT rights. And basically that has always been absolutely shut down. Here, I lost my chat again. So, make sure I have that. My channel. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Oh my gosh, and I have all these little panels. Wonderful. Anywho, I need to customize those. It just is what it is. That is not actually real, so I'll customize that later. So, going back to what we were talking about. So basically, there's been some legislation sitting on a desk for almost a decade now. They haven't done anything about it. And I think Japan has had some pretty bad press in terms of the Olympics and also in terms of LGBT rights. I think it got put on some worst countries for transgender list. There were some articles about basically how bad, how not good their transgender rights are. So that's really bad press. So I think probably the current push was, for one, advocates of this bill wanted to get it passed. Basically, this legislation wanted to get things happening, get the ball rolling on it, and they were hoping for good PR that they would be accepting of LGBT people who are visiting. They really didn't want a situation where maybe there would be a gay person who got discriminated against while they were visiting. Now, honestly, I don't think that's something that would necessarily happen, because I think that Japanese people in general are super considerate of foreigners most of the time, especially if they're going to be related to the Olympics. Everyone's going to be trying to put their best foot forward. But I think that was maybe the impetus for the big push. And then also probably the team behind the Olympics have people who are in the know, who are looking at what is a global standard, and are implementing a lot of things. So I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. But anyway, recently that went basically in front of the Parliament. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Went in front of them, and one politician said like something really dumb. What is that? Oh no, this is something I want to show you guys later. One politician said something super dumb. He basically just made a statement that was like, wait, but if we support gay people, won't the species go extinct? So basically, like, this guy was just completely, like, head empty, was not thinking, had no brain, I guess, was not thinking about it, and said that. And that's kind of what made news recently. However, what they really put in front of the Parliament recently wasn't actually... It was mostly just a statement to say, hey, we're not going to discriminate against LGBT people. It did include the education piece, and it did include steps towards the domestic partnership, but it wasn't really much other than that. However, there was some wording in there that said it's not allowed to discriminate. Like that is, there was just like strong wording. It didn't say specifically like what that means though, and the LDP kind of used that as an excuse to poo-poo it, which kind of makes sense in one way, where you could say, well, what does that mean? What's the punishment for discriminating against someone? You need to be more specific, is kind of how they're playing that. But also in Japan, they kind of have, it's quite frequent that they'll just say something and ask everyone to do it. Like, for example, with coronavirus, with COVID, they'll just go and make an official statement and say, could everyone please try not to go out and have parties while there are flower blossoms out? Because in the springtime, everyone goes and has a party while there are flower blossoms out. So they just asked everyone super nicely. That was a government action that they did. So they could have just said, hey, everyone, don't discriminate against gay people, okay? That's not cool. Like, that's basically what this legislation was. But it didn't go through. They are pushing it kind of down the road there. Hello, I think I see some people. I'm still getting the hang of the chat functions, so feel free to have a wee chat. I'm not Irish. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I said that. I'm not Irish. But feel free to have a wee chat or anything. Ask questions. I'd be really happy to hear from you. Okay. So, right, so that's the recent thing that happened. That's what kind of made the news. But on a more positive note, I wanted to bring up a little bit about kind of something nice. And being trans, I guess I should say that, I have recently been thinking a lot more about how I blend in or maybe don't blend in, and something that most trans people have to worry about, at least some of the time, is what bathroom you're going to use, and then what kind of risks are there. Like, you worry a little bit about how people are going to be perceiving you, you know, basically, how do I look right now, how am I representing? So you worry about stuff like that. So that's kind of a normal trans people problem, for anyone who doesn't know. But anyway, for Golden Week, which is a week off that generally most people get in Japan, I went with my friend to this island, Yakushima. Actually, I could show it. It is just really cool, filled with nature, beautiful, beautiful place. Amazing, amazing, beautiful place. There's just like the most beautiful moss. It's a whole thing. There's trees that are like petrified wood. They grow out of other trees. When the tree dies, there's another tree that grows out of the tree. And then the dead trees just turn into like these cool looking petrified forest. There are like all these vines growing out of the trees that are growing out of the trees. And then there's moss growing on the vines that are growing out of the trees that are growing out of the trees. So it just looks like this cool, tangled, very awesome, vibrant ecosystem in nature. It's really glorious. So we went to go do that. And it is an island in the wilderness, a wilderness island. And I don't need that anymore. We went, I want to show you guys. We went on this barge, and, oh, maybe that is it. And what you can do, this actually has a lot of detail. It's this old looking barge. You can ride on it. They will take you to the island from Kagoshima, which is a little bit north. It's the bigger city. And they have an airport and all that. So, oh, where'd it go? Apologies. But there was a really cool picture of the actual boat on this page. Oh yeah, here we go. Here you go. It looks like this. It's this old cargo ship called Hibiscus. And basically you ride on it for about 11 hours. And you go on at like 4 or 5 p.m. Then they have just like this little like room and some blankets, and you just hang out. You just hang out all night. They go to another island. They stop there for a while. Then you make it to the island, the Yakushima, at like 7 in the morning, I want to say. So we did that. It was super cool, right? Yeah, they have a little ramen machine. It was just like this. It was dirty. It was very basic. I'll show you some of the rooms. But actually, I went there after this because here are the bathrooms. Yeah, and here are kind of the rooms that there are. Oh, it didn't really show very much. You kind of can't see. But yeah, it's just a very basic room. When we went, they had English translations of everything that were just like laughably bad. It was like, you will understand that you will not take the blankets for more than a person. It was adorable. Okay, but that's not the thing I want to talk about exactly. What I want to tell you about is, so I went there, and this picture looks at, oh, see, some of this has, okay. Alright, some of that's got a little bit of the English translations, but there were more when we went. And there was a poster by the bathrooms that I was very pleasantly interested in. And the poster I saw was this one. I found it. And I think it is a like full government push to do this. And I've noticed things like this, but this was my favorite poster that I liked. As you can see, it has in English and in Japanese. It's got, I'll go ahead and just read in the English. Some people need restrooms that offer many different functions. These guys are like, I need a bed for assistance. This person says, my care requires that someone of the opposite sex accompanies me. I was looking at that and I'm pretty sure that it means that someone has a caregiver and the caregiver just happens to be of the opposite sex, not that it's required that they be the opposite sex. But I mean, I think that translation is pretty good, all things considering. I need some extra space for my stroller. I need facilities for colostomy care. I need extra space and handrail. Using the restroom takes extra time. The amount of space needed and the desired facilities are different depending on the person. And then it says here, toire no ryo ni kokoro no barrier frio. So it says, when it comes to how people use restrooms, make your mind accessible. And notice they put kokoro, they put heart. But in English, they went ahead and made it mind, which makes sense, like have an open mind. So I think they did quite a nice job translating it as well. But it's just kind of a nice poster. And what does this have to do with LGBTQ people? Well, I would like to posit, I'm going to show you that the people who made this poster were actually thinking about that, I believe. Even though they do not have anything about LGBTQ people anywhere on this. The inventors of barrier-free toilets were indeed thinking about that, and they probably did consider putting it on the poster. And why they did is actually, I think, a very measured and good choice for them. And I will get back to why I think that. So to put some background into this barrier-free verbiage, there is a whole actual saga with toilet use that has been going on in Japan for the past year or so. And they used to be called shogaisha toilets, which is basically a handicapped toilet, which is the same thing as, I suppose, in America how things have been. It would have like maybe a wheelchair picture on it, and maybe a handlebar, that kind of thing. But as they were implementing new construction for the Olympics, there was this whole upgrade of train stations, buildings, shopping centers. Basically, like, all the buildings in Tokyo like wanted to upgrade. They wanted airports. They wanted to make everything, all the facilities, really nice, really new. And a lot went into planning the accessibility options there. There's really nice accessibility now. There are bumps on the ground for blind people, and there are instructions also for blind people. There are maps, so that you can actually look at where things are on the outside of many toilets. They're really fancy ones. There were not fancy ones in the barge. They just had the poster. Just the poster. But I digress. There was a kind of growing sentiment. They renamed this to multi-purpose restrooms. And then what that translates to in Japanese is what is it? Tamokuteki? Tamokuteki toire. So mokuteki actually means like goal. It doesn't quite mean multi-purpose in the way that multi-purpose is in English. It actually means like multiple, multiple intentions. So there was a problem with that name, and these are the national conversations that Japan has, you guys. Part of it is I want to share these national conversations that are going on. Just gonna wait for the ad. Okay. And I think this account right here is just someone who makes cartoons out of news, basically.
多目的トイレの不正利用、これがまた清掃員の悩みの種なのだ。
Okay, so far what happened is this guy with like the very beautiful blank stare here. He is a toilet cleaner. Very dramatically, someone called him to the toilet. Someone's in trouble. You work here, is what he's saying. And look, this old man is in trouble. What's going on? Oh no. Someone has used the handicapped toilet to eat. And then it says people eat and drink in the tamokuteki toilet. Which is gross, but totally, absolutely true. I can totally see it. I can totally see it. That is exactly what people would do. 100%.
すみませんすみません。多目的トイレは悲しいことに本来の使い方をされないことが多い。本当は障害者や高齢者、乳幼児を持つ親や人。
Okay, this says there's a lot of people using the tamokuteki toilet for bad reasons. It really is for people with disabilities, people who are older, people who are pregnant, people who have an infant. Sorry, parents with an infant. People who have colostomy issues, so that means someone who has like maybe a catheter or a colostomy bag. And it actually wasn't like the maker of this video didn't actually include some of the other purposes that people do think about. Okay, and then like there's another example. Oh no, those are underwear. Says someone oh no, like they must have pissed themselves and left their underwear in the toilet. And like I think like public toilets are just a place where wild and crazy things happen. Like in America, like I'm sure like in America that's not like if you go to a public toilet, like that's at your own risk. That's at your own peril that you go to a public toilet. So I'm sure like I don't know if you've ever like been involved in that. Like you can leave me a comment like if you've had something strange happen in a public toilet, but I mean it seems kind of a little bit normal, but like this literally was like kind of a big deal. People were talking about it on the news. They're like, why don't people use the toilets respectfully? It was kind of a thing. Wait. Sorry, I lost that. So he's saying don't have a party in here because they're drinking.
誤解しないで。仮眠
Don't sleep in here.
しない。なんだってんだ、本当に。
Okay, and then it says there are actually real people, like people who really want to use it and then can't use it.
清掃員さん、おおほい、匂いがすごいんですよ。ちょっと来てください。子連れのお母さんに連れられ、俺は多目的トイレへと向かった。するとそこからは何とも言えない匂いが。
Okay, so this one I kind of get it, but I'm not 100% sure. So the lady came and she's like, "Oh my gosh, the toilet really stinks." And then he's like, "Oh wow, it really stinks here."
なんとも言えない匂いが。我慢できないほどじゃない。だがこれはなんというか、あれの後の匂いだ。
So then he's saying that あれの後の匂いだ. So he's saying it's the smell after that. Well, like, okay, and here's the part that I don't 100% get. Like, please help me. Like, I feel like the thing that would be stinky would be like poo, but it's a toilet, so like obviously a toilet would kind of smell like poo. But I think what they're trying to imply is like it smells like sex in here. And like, oh, it's the smell after sex. And like, I don't know. I need to look up. Is it a cultural thing? Like people don't like this. Like they're like, oh, that sex smells stanky. Like, it feels like an overreaction to me. I don't know. I'm just saying. But tell me, like, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what this one is? It's saying like about this, like, don't. I mean, I think it is. I think it's don't have sex in the toilet.
目的トイレってそういうことするために使うんですか？違います。
It's like point 3. 違います. Don't. It says no. Wrong. Wrong is what it says. Don't use the toilet for sex. And the reason, okay. The reason is there was a Japanese celebrity, which honestly I don't care about most celebrities. I don't know who does what. I don't know their catchphrases. I find most of Japanese television to be like kind of intolerable. It's kind of hard to keep up with who's who. But there was a celebrity who boinked his girlfriend in the multi-purpose toilet and got caught and like had to make a big public apology for boinking in the multi-purpose toilet. He was shamed publicly, and now what people think about it is like if you say tamokuteki toilet, that you think about that. So they're like, now we have to change the name of the tamokuteki toilet.
多目的トイレで常時を行うなんて許されることじゃない。そんな。
It's unforgivable to use the tamokuteki toilet in this way. The mokuteki, the purpose, these purposes are not included.
なことは目的に含まれない。今の人、普通に健常者じゃないか？不審に思った俺は他のトイレを掃除しつつ時間を計ることにした。実は多目的トイレは30分。
And then here's what he says. Okay, so there's this guy who doesn't look like he has any problems. I'm going to watch that. And then it's been 30 minutes. He says the lock automatically comes undone after 30 minutes. So I'm going to check on him. And of course, it's just.
のために一旦ロックが外れるのだ。行ってみるか。すみません、お客様。返事ないね。開けますね。俺は意を決してトイレを開けた。すると。
He said, oh, there's no answer, I'm gonna open it, and then there's a guy working on his computer. And that's like totally a thing that people do. People would 100% do that. It is, like, Tokyo is just, I think it's probably mostly Tokyo that would happen. I can't imagine anywhere else people would actually do work in the toilet. But like there's just so many people around all the time that you end up like people end up doing things in public that would be private things elsewhere. Like you can sleep on the train. People do it all the time. You can sleep in a cafe. You can sleep almost anywhere. So like most of it is sleeping. But people like, I mean, I think working on the train is kind of normal. Is it? Working on the train is normal. Working in a cafe is normal. Um, Probably people wouldn't um, work outside so much because they wouldn't have enough Wi-Fi. But I can definitely see someone being like, "Oh, I need to finish these TPS reports. Let me just go into the toilet and do it." Can totally see that, 100%. Um, but one thing that wasn't cool about this was that a person who looks able-bodied went into the toilet. Um, ugh, excuse me. Person who looks able-bodied went into the toilet, and kind of the cleaner guy automatically judged him, which is not a great thing. Not a great thing, especially since, well, for one thing, the person could be trans and maybe he's not comfortable using one toilet or another, or it could be that they have an issue that's not readily apparent from just looking at them. Um, so it's not cool to judge people like that. But anyway, it kind of ends in like a little public service announcement. Let's always use the toilet nicely. So that's that. But that's kind of some of the background to the toilet uh, name situation. Also, kind of simultaneously, there has been more awareness about transgender people and kind of that whole situation where people might feel uncomfortable. Uh, and there was actually a little bit of a movement to make an LGBT toilet, which is not a good idea. Not a great idea at all. And I learned about it in this channel here. It's actually kind of a nice channel. Uh, LGBT News, and this person I think is named Yuna, and she, just to summarize, because it's a little bit long and it's a little bit boring to watch because Japanese people just kind of sit and talk, just like I'm doing. So I'll do most of the summary. Where she talks about the LGBT toilet. Right. I don't know if you can hear it. Right, so they put a rainbow sticker on it and they said this is an LGBT toilet. Okay, so I misremembered. They were talking about doing all gender toilets, but the news called it an LGBT toilet, which there are problems with that, and she did explain it. It's that obviously if you there are two reasons. First of all, L, G, and B are sexual minorities, but it has more to do with sexual attraction and who you choose for partner, as probably those groups have less problems with using toilets. I mean, if you're, I guess there's some gray area there, but that's not really, it's really just the T that has the biggest problem with that. The second issue is that anyone who uses a LGBT toilet is instantly outing themselves to everyone around them. So like it's kind of like if you are maybe not trying to be super overt, if you're trying to be blend in, if you're trying to pass, so to speak, um, then the LGBT toilet is not actually that helpful at like avoiding kind of like an embarrassing situation where you're being judged. So that's kind of what she goes on to talk about. So bringing it around, right? What have we talked about so far? We've talked about how to prepare for the Olympics. Japan's really working on their image, and they're working on accessibility and updating all of their facilities to be better and more accessible and more, I suppose, palatable to a foreign audience, but then also hopefully that involves making sure that LGBT people here in Japan also have rights and aren't discriminated against. So all that stuff is happening, right? And there's this big kind of discussion over what to do with the toilet situation, what to name them. And what they ended up doing is they went with something called barrier free, which means that kind of not that it's for a certain amount of people, but that there's no barriers to using the toilet. And then they also call it the other name that stuck is the daredemo toilet, which I actually really like. And it means daredemo means anybody. So it's anybody's toilet. So I kind of like that because it's kind of a catchy name. It's a little bit cute. And I think that they came up with some good definitions. When I was researching about this, I came up with, was it this one? No. I came up, there was this really kind of cute explanation of it, and I want to show you this article. This is for Kobe's tourism division, but they kind of explain what the daredemo toilet is. But I just thought it was super cute. 神戸誰でもトイレはあらゆる人にとって使いやすく適切なトイレ。So it's easy to use and appropriate for all kinds of people. And then I'm a little bit embarrassed to try to say colonoscopy in Japanese. So older people, people who use wheelchairs, people who like are colonoscopy patients or have those issues, people with young children, pregnant people, people who use a cane, people who have, and then this is where I'm like, oh, this is wholesome. It says people who have a lot of luggage, and then it says foreigners. So, and then it says it's easy for everyone to use. It's got a universal design for everyone. It has multi-purpose. It is multi-purpose, is what it says. So I just thought that was cute how they're like, oh, it's for all these people, and also like if you have just a lot of luggage or or for foreigners, as if foreigners can't use like regular toilets, but like, no, it's right though. If you have like a lot of bags and you're like tired, like why not just use the toilet in the big room? Why not? But sure, it's okay. It just use it. It takes like a minute, and then you're done, and someone else can use it. And I guess I can see how like if you're a foreigner, you're just like there's just this image in Japan of foreigners like being like really stressed all the time and like super sweaty and being like, oh man, where do I go? What do I do? Oh no, how do I use the toilet? Like, It's eh, eh, eh. The most places do have like a Western style toilet to use, so it's really not a like it's a little too considerate. Like you don't have to be that. It's okay. It's okay, Kobe. Foreigners don't need that toilet necessarily. Um, but even if people aren't thinking about LGBT folks, having that assumption that anyone can use it. It's not just for certain people. Anyone can go ahead and use it to just not for inappropriate stuff. But I still think I don't think the name's really gonna fix people trying to get away with, um, you know, having snacks in the toilet. I hope not. Um, but going back, kind of to wind back around to my favorite poster here. Um, okay, imagine this, right? You have some old, like, kind of bigoted old man or something. Maybe he's a he's got like a colonoscopy bag that he has to replace. But if he's waiting outside the toilet and it's taking a long time, he's getting like pissed off, and then um, out comes like an able-bodied person. He's gonna be like super annoyed, right? Um, but if there's like this nice poster that's like, oh look, there's me, and then it says like, when it comes to how people use restrooms, make your mind accessible. There's all kinds of people who might use it for all kinds of reasons. Anyone can use it. Um, so I think having that messaging there is really helpful. I think they could have written at least like one thing about LGBT people, and I think they did not on this poster. But they they do make a statement that's like, uh, anyone can actually use it. So they do say that. Um, it would have been nice if they had one little thing about it though. But there are like alternate signs that people use. Like for example, I kind of like this sign. Um, I thought it was interesting how like the the only colorful one was like the gays. But okay, so we've got like handicap accessible, women, men, the gays. The gays can use it too. Someone with a a condition that's inside. Like I really like this picture because it implies that like, hey, someone might have an internal condition that means that they should be allowed to use the toilet too. You with kids, you need to change your baby. I'm not sure what this one is. I think this one is the colonoscopy one, or it might just be like walls, wall-shaped people. Not entirely sure what this is a picture of, but it says anyone can freely use this. Anyone can use this, is what it says. Um, so I just feel like that is actually kind of a win, Japan, because if you look at the legislation that has gone on in Tennessee this week, where now I guess businesses have to put a sticker that's like, warning, this this shop allows transes in the toilet. Hide hide your wife, hide your mom. Um, so that's horrible. I'm not I'm not I'm not trying to minimize it. It's horrible, right? But kind of part of the reason for that is there's this um, whole big debate about it. There's room for there to be a debate about whether trans people should use toilets or not. Um, and I think this kind of like subliminal messaging, in a way, is a lot better. Um, it not just for like in general, but especially for Japan. And I think the cultural differences really have an impact on this. In Japan, it's more culturally appropriate to try to find a solution to a problem as quietly as you possibly can. And the benefit to that is that you don't have to like start a big fight with a whole bunch of bigots about it. You just sort of come to a conclusion that is going to get as many people to cooperate and understand your point of view as possible, and you don't make it a big thing like, what do you think? Do you think that trans people should just piss their pants? Oh, I do. um so like I feel like that's kind of where America tends to fuck up a lot. People really think, okay, here's my opinion, I think I'm right, now I'm just gonna make it into a big argument, which is, well, it's fun to watch some of these debates of like conservatives just saying ridiculous things. Um, but it kind of sucks a lot of the time because sometimes it ends up being like who can shout each other down, not what's the best solution. So that kind of sucks. And I think too culturally that it works better in Japan. Like I was pretty surprised. Like for years and years and years, Japan used all these plastic bags in their convenience stores. It's a whole thing how they overpackage things. They'll put like plastic around a banana, and then put your banana in a plastic bag. It's just a lot. There's a lot of plastic, but I think Japan as a government like got together and they're like, okay, we want to get rid of these plastic bags, and they thought about it, and thought about it, and thought about it, and then they came out with, um, okay, everybody, plastic bags are bad for the environment. They now have to cost money in all the shops. Everyone get your own bag, and everyone's like, okay. So then they did, and then just instantly we went from everybody using plastic bags all the time to the next day everyone has their own my bag to put their stuff in from the store. And it just like wasn't a debate. There was no one going around on the street like, do you think that there should be plastic bags automatically for every little thing? Like, no, they had committees, they had people with degrees do all the research, line everything up, make the decision, right? So like that's one of the good things I I think about Japan. And of course, obviously the bad thing about that is if Japan comes up with bad policies, then people are, there's the chance that people could go along with it. I do think that Japan does hold their government to like a high standard of explaining like anything that comes up. So obviously, there's a lot of reasons to stop using plastic bags. There's a lot of reasons to uh, have toilets that anyone can use for a variety of different reasons. Like there's so many reasons to have accessible toilets. So I think people can understand that and get behind it, even if they don't understand it on the level of an actual like trans person's experience. They can understand like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't worry myself about who's using the toilet. Like maybe as long as people are just like going and not boinking in the toilet, then that's that's kind of the standard, right? So I think this one is a good job, Japan. the uh, the whole bill thing, uh, the whole LGBT bill getting turned down is not a good thing. I think that was a big mistake. Whoever I think brought it to the table uh, this time around, I think bit off more than they could chew with the really strong wording, and I think that the government is full of a lot of just really like willfully ignorant people. Um, so that's unfortunate. And it's really bad, obviously really bad for their press, because like, there are going to be arguments saying like this one dude saying like a completely dumb, very just dumb, stupid, uneducated take. So that's just it's just unfortunate. But anywho, that's one thing I wanted to talk about in terms of. Okay, I'm gonna take a water break. Do I have anyone in the chat? Chat. Do feel free to drop me a chat, drop me a comment, send me a message. I want to know what you think. I do have social medias. I do have a Twitter. It is wow Alex with the 2 W's and then a 3 at the end of it. I do also have an Instagram, which is wow Alex. I have a YouTube. I have a Twitch. So I'm just kind of trying this whole let's be on social media, let's be a person that exists. So if you like some of my ideas, if you want to see me grow as a creator, then please go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Follow me. Instagram is where I have the coolest stuff. Um, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be trying to do all of the things. So definitely don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger. Right. So that's one piece of kind of LGBT stuff that I wanted to talk about. The other thing is a little bit of old, a little bit of new. Let's see, don't need any of these tabs. And a little bit of stuff about transgender awareness I wanted to share. There was this commercial that came out actually last year, but I thought it was just really heartwarming. And it's probably the most mainstream thing I've seen about trans people lately in Japan. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and show it to you first. Alright, they're saying, so I wasn't sure whether to, as a new graduate, search for work as a man or woman. I wasn't sure what to do, so I waited for 1 year and I searched for work, but I didn't wear makeup and I wore a ponytail. I had to appeal to employers and kind of hide myself.
就職活動直前にカミングアウトをしたので、両親にはそれは就職活動で不利に働くからやめといた方がいいんじゃないかっていうふうに言われることもありました。
She said that she came out just before she searched for work after graduating college. That's a really common thing to just find a job after college, and it's kind of a big deal, and you're supposed to stay at that job for a long time. So she said that her parents said that it would be a problem, like that it would make her less competitive, so she just shouldn't even bother. If you let people know that you're transgender, sorry. I'm learning Japanese. You can learn with me. Let's find out what naite means. Oh, okay. So that would be a job offer. Hang on. You're not going to get any job offers if you let them know that you're transgender. There was no one. Yeah, there was no one there to say, like, oh yeah, that's scary. Like, there was no one there to empathize with me. Kind of... I wanted to cut my hair. But I felt like I had to hide the fact that I was transgender, and I couldn't cut my hair, basically. A lot of, and then this says 70% of LGBTQ people do not want to tell people because they are afraid of harassment or discrimination. If I were to cut my hair, it would be like cutting my pride, because I like tried really hard to grow it. It took a long time to grow it. And it says my hair was my identity. Okay, then he got an offer from a company that said, "This is you're our first trans." I think he told them that he's transgender, and then they said, "You're the first transgender person, but please join our company." And I was really happy. And then there are experiences that I can have because I'm transgender. There's experience that I have because of it. So so that's a good thing. I'm not exactly sure about this phrase, but I think it means that that's like a benefit. It's not a bad thing to be trans. Let's see. Oh, what do you want? It says, what do you want to say to the person, to yourself when you were searching for work? So I think it's really good that I didn't run away, and that I tried really hard to I mean, that's it's like to stand your ground a little bit, but I think that's step forward. Okay, yeah. Okay, to take steps. Oh yeah. So I was totally wrong. It's not stand your ground. It's like uh, make to start the journey. I suppose.
人より悩むことは多いし、面接で落とされることもありますけど、
Um, you have to worry more than other people, and you will fail interviews, but
本当は誰かのロールモデルに
you're gonna become a role model. And then it says, "This hair is me." Um, and it says, "Don't hide yourself for searching for work." You should express yourself in your own way. Please try, even though it's difficult. You will be happy in 3 or 5 years. You will smile. Is what I want to say to myself. So, like the first time I saw this, it made me like want to cry because it's like so wholesome. It's just so nice, um, so nice. I'm not a big fan of like the shampoo, but I thought it was a really cute commercial, um, and it's actually maybe not super. I mean, a little bit good for transgender awareness. Um, really though, what it really speaks to is more of a cultural dialogue on women in the workplace in certain ways. Um, in that women are not allowed to cut their hair a lot of the time, or they will be looked down upon. So that's a little bit more of the context that this was put forth in. And yeah, I think actually probably more and more companies are open to having gay people, but there actually are a lot that do discriminate. So I don't think this like fixes the problem. But what you do see now, and it's part of like a bigger, I guess, dialogue, is like sorry, I'm not like I can kind of do Japanese, but not all the time. Is like having short hair in the workplace, and like even something like this is really looked down upon for women to do, and that's getting more accepted now. And like the year before, this was kind of like last year's big thing. But like the year before, it was like women wanting to not always wear heels. Like it was like, can we just wear flats sometimes, please? So like that's where the gender discourse is at. Like make no mistake. Um, so like yeah, I feel like we're not there yet in terms of like LGBT people and saying let's make sure no discrimination happens ever. That's really not realistic because people are, on the one hand, either super ignorant, have literally never thought about it before, or are like mega bigots and kind of want to say like, hey, like you have to conform because that's how it was in my generation. So we were kind of caught between that in some ways. I think most of the young people, at least most of the young people I know, all the cool ones, tend to be pretty aware. Like they have like gay friends. They're pretty open about it. But I think that's maybe because the people I know tend to be more artistic. They tend to be dancers. They tend to be really interested in America or like foreign countries. So that might be my bias. I think there are a lot of people that do have more of that traditional mindset where everyone has to do everything a certain way. So that's a little bit of that. But there was a second fancy commercial that I couldn't find, but it had kaide. I want to say okay, sari kaide. I think is how she's going. Um, and she is in a movie, and I actually really like kind of the premise of this movie. Uh, it is, I haven't seen it, but it looks to be about her being in a pageant and her kind of transgender journey, and I thought it's a really neat preview. So I went and followed them on Instagram and stuff after that. I think it's okay. I'm gonna just be quiet for a minute.
自分の体が女性であるとは言えないと思います。
Okay. All right. So, if any trans people are seeing this, I need to preface before I start translating this. Alright, I'm about to go off. It's really important to respect that transgender people of other cultures are going to see themselves differently from people in America, and it's really important to leave space for people to define themselves and define what that is. So this is one person's view of her own gender. She's not a super big public figure or anything, so just try to be understanding. Please.
自分の体が女性であるとは言えないと思います。
So she says, I don't think I can say that my body is a woman's body.
理由は、生物学的に言うと男性の、男性だと思います。
And then she says, because biologically speaking, my body is male. Because it's male. And then this says, the kind of title here, Musuko no mama de joshi naru. You decide. So it says, as a son, become a woman.
いつさら最悪ですね。この時は
So that said, I felt really reluctant to live my life as a man.
この時は私は健生っていう名前で男性として表現してはい。
So she's saying she used to be, she used to have another name, Hatashima Kensei. And it says the normal, as the normal me, I want to become a girl.
で男性として競技宿題を通っていました。
And then it says what university she went to as a man.
男性であったことの根拠を残すようなものは全部捨てました。証拠隠滅みたいに無過去に自分を殺すみたいな気分で。
Oh, okay. There was a lot there, and there were some hard words, so I might not be able to translate it very well. That's a pretty face shot. Hey. Okay. She wanted to work in construction when she was younger. There's some kind of what she's talking about is not the same as what's written on it.
当時流行っていました。男性であったことに根拠を残すようなものは全部捨てました。証拠隠滅みたいな、過去の自分を殺すみたいな。
All the things that I had as a man, I threw away. I wanted to kill my past self. I won't give up is what it says here.
ドキュメンタリー撮ってたんだ。
It says I'm
この
filming a documentary.
に父と母出てもらえないか。
And then she says she's going to come out during her documentary. Nobody has made a mistake, but living is sometimes difficult. Okay, this is a little bit much for me. Okay, that's a quotation. It's the general gist of it is that you can't just pretend everything is like super nice all the time. There's also difficult things, and you need to honestly be honest about that. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
ってるかどうかですよ。世の中がトランスジェンダーってこういう人って同じ像を持ってて、そのステレオタイプが間違ってるんですよ。
So that was from looks like a workshop that they were doing. She was saying that there's a stereotypes about transgender people.
でもこれからカミングアウトする LGBT の当事者
She says we need a new role model. And kind of what they're speaking to is the way that transgender people are portrayed in Japanese media. Most trans people, specifically trans women, are portrayed as comedic, whereas in America you have the trope of the like transgender psycho killer. They don't have that here. What they have is like a silly, stupid, like maybe very like misguided but funny and nice, like old man who dresses like a woman and thinks he's a woman. So it's this kind of perspective that it's funny, and that to be trans, like a trans woman, you have to be like kind of funny, entertaining, either that or just like really, really, really beautiful. Like you have to just be super pretty. It's kind of an impossible standard. It's this not. It's just this exaggeration of reality, and I can see how, like, as a young person, probably in Japan, if someone is transgender, it's probably really hard to see yourself in that, because it's kind of it kind of ends up being, either a joke or a sex object is kind of how someone would get perceived. So that's unfortunate.
大丈夫だ、私の帰りはいるじゃないかってそういう風に言ってもらえるようになりたいなという風に思っています。
So that was a continuation, like if someone she wants to be a role model so someone else can see themselves in that way. Oh, that was cute. Hang on, I want to see that again. Hang on. Oh. Oh, that was cute. He said, oh, that's his dad. Oh, that's her dad, sorry. It's her dad. He said, um, man or woman, for me, it makes no difference. Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, and I do want to see it. It hasn't come out yet. But I guess it won some kind of award, which is really cool. But I like that because it offers a different perspective. I think it's really easy in America for us to get stuck in this discourse rut, and I don't know if you watching this, if you are aware of some of the trans discourse, there's kind of a lot of different layers, but you kind of end up stuck on certain tracks. Like there's this kind of conservative track in America, and then there's this very, I guess you could say, yeah, there's the trans medical, and then there's what is it, the too cute kind of segments, and it's really easy to get stuck in that thinking, to get stuck in, if you hear someone say something that makes them, a turf, or that makes someone transmedical, or that makes someone this or that. And I find it really refreshing that in Japan they're having some discourse that's a little bit different and a little bit more like, let's start forging this path for ourselves, which is really nice, I think. I would say that the idea, just for anyone who's interested, the idea of trans men are men, trans women are women, that the biology is unimportant, I guess, is not something that has taken off in Japan. And I would say that most trans people have the expectation that that part will be questioned, that part will be mentioned. Like someone will mention, like, so what about your dick? Like, and people totally will refer to that. They will mention that. They will ask you straight up. And there's a certain amount of putting up with that happens. So, in relation to the previous discussion about, okay, what is the Japanese way to fix some things? How can you make people more aware and more willing to understand you without making it a direct conflict, a direct confrontation? Asking questions like that, I think, is really interesting and not really something that America is good at. So I'm actually kind of curious to learn more about, like, whether Japan is going to kind of go this same direction as America. And I don't know what direction America is really going in, but I think as an American, probably the right answer is letting people be whatever gender they like legally, and be whether someone can understand it or not, and then let the biological stuff be between a person and a doctor. But if in Japan, like, people feel like defining that in a different way, then actually I think that would be kind of neat. Um, and I think there is, I don't know if it's just that, like, Japan is behind in the discourse, or that it's just different. But I think there's still a lot more I guess, camaraderie and less segmentation between different parts of the queer community uh, in certain ways. Like, for example, there are certain labels and things that uh, cross over a lot of the boundaries. There aren't really like hard segmentations between gay, lesbian, trans, and bi. Like, and I don't know. Maybe I need to ask people more of these questions, but a lot of the questions that are asked in America, like, can someone be, and this is like, this is deep discourse. This is deep discourse. Can someone be a he, him lesbian? Can someone be a bisexual lesbian? Can someone be trans and also like gay? You know, or trans and lesbian? Like, we get into these kind of definitional constructs. I was reading a thread. Can someone be transsexual if they don't get surgery? We get kind of stuck in all these definitions, like within the community, and that's I don't feel that here. I feel like those things, if those things are asked at all, it's towards outside. It's the answers are directed towards the outside of the community, if that makes any sense at all. Uh, so I think that's a nice thing that they don't. I don't think they have quite the infighting situation that we have in America. So I think that's also quite good. I think it kind of sucks that you have to you have to just take people's bullshit. So like, I'm sure, like, probably most trans people just kind of take it if someone's like, so you actually have a dick or what? You're actually a man, and they'll be like, yes, yes, and that's really frustrating. Uh, and I think it'd be nice if Japan could move past that, and people could just say like, no, I'm a girl, or I didn't get surgery, that kind of thing. So that's actually a little bit what this documentary is about, is that um, Kaede-san wants to be recognized as a normal person, as a regular member of society. She's not like, she's not unattractive, but she's not like super. She's a normal person. She's not a comedian. She's not the most charismatic person ever. She's not the most attractive person, but like she's competing in this little beauty pageant, which I think is really cute. Um, but what she's trying to do, she's trying to say, hey, I'm a transgender person. I'm a normal person, and kind of the big elephant in the room for that is that she's not getting surgery. And in Japan, to be recognized as trans, as the gender you want to be, you have to get surgery. So that's the big boundary that she's trying to push. There's two, so I guess there's two boundaries. There's that social thing, like, hey, transgender people are like actually normal people, and she's out, and she's not, she's not doing it to just be a celebrity or be a comedian, which there's nothing wrong with that. Comedians are cool. Celebrities are cool. Supermodels are cool. Sex workers are cool. But not only is she being a normal person, but she's also saying, hey, I'm not getting bottom surgery, and I also want to be respected. And that is definitely a boundary that she is